Warning. This video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness. Viewer discretion advised.
The wrestling podcast that sets all other podcasts apart. Covering news from the world of WWE, AEW, TNA, and more. Your favorite weekly episodic podcast, Ramblers Unleashed, starts now.
Hey, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Well, here we go. It is just Maximilian and I today as J-Bone and Baron are on assignment, but welcome back to another weekly episodic podcast of Ramblers Unleashed. I have been dying to talk some wrestling news, and doggone it, it feels like we haven't been able to do it because our schedules just conflict, man. So I'm missing it. I missed this guy over here, if I can point correctly, because it's my camera. Anyway, yeah. Baron is on assignment. He's been following Kevin Owens, trying to get him back into a better mood since, you know, Baron is the happiest guy that we know. And J-Bone is tagging along with him just to make sure he doesn't get beat up and avoid security, Max. So we wished him the best of luck, and we hope for a safe return.
Well, and the other problem is that the method that our boy Baron is using to try and cheer KO up is not exactly legal in all 50 states. So there is that to avoid security.
Yeah, and I think it's still kind of frowned upon in WWE, but, you know, it is what it is. It's the only method that I know that can get him happy again.
Well,
you know?
I mean, they do have those little happy pills. They're little and blue. I believe J-Bone mentioned them recently.
Yeah, probably. Then you look like the smiling people from the Soundgarden video. Like,
see, I don't really remember the Soundgarden video. I do remember the original 1989 Batman, the Joker toxin that made them all smile.
Yeah, absolutely. The video that I'm referring to is Black Hole Sun. You should go watch that video.
I definitely should. Probably not right now, because right now it's wrestling and Nickelback time.
Well, minus the Nickelback. I mean, you can keep Nickelback over there if you like, but to me, it's just wrestling. And let's introduce this guy right over here. He is the neighborhood heel, a man with more wrestling knowledge in his pinky finger than Tony Khan could ever muster up with his toy figures, and the only guy that I know that pops bigger for Joel Gertner than any of us. You can address him as Mr. Magus, but we call him the mighty Maximus Magus. Golfers clap. How are you, sir? You having a good
I'm excited to be here. We have a news story today that is so big, it's going to put the competitive eating world on its back. That's how big this story is, but we'll get to that at some point, because right now it's about me. Ladies and gentlemen, I have missed you the last couple of weeks. I wish I could have been here. I have tried. Unfortunately, things didn't exactly line up. Life happens. We just move on and we deal with it, and we do what we can. We have missed you, though. We talk about you guys daily, especially you, Courtney. You're one of our biggest supporters, and we love you.
Courtney.
We're so happy to be back today. And let me introduce my broadcast colleague, the man with a face for radio. So why we're doing this on video, I'm not really sure. But the man with the voice, the golden voice, the man that all for me, because I don't take time to Google very often, and I really should GTS, not go to sleep, the other thing. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the man, the myth, Dizzy.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
No, I said give him a round of applause. This little weak, no. Yeah, right. Stand up and applaud this man.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Max. It was very nice of you, sir. Very nice of you. And we hope to have J-Bone and Baron back next week. But we have just a lot to dive into. So, Max, what do you say we dive into some wrestling news?
I would say that we should probably do that.
I think so. Let's dive into it. Let's start with some WWE news. Big news. The Motor City Machine Guns last night on SmackDown became the #1 contenders for the tag titles as they beat DIY's Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and mere minutes challenged the Bloodline, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, for the titles and won those titles thanks to the OTC and the Usos reuniting. Yeah, give them a round of applause. Byron Saxton caught up with MCMG backstage, and Chris Sabin admitted that he was overwhelmed, saying that, quote, "I think it's still sinking in. I'm almost kind of speechless. I don't know what to say. It's kind of unheard of to be on fast track to success like this in WWE, but this is exactly what we came here to do." And, I was talking to J-Bone last night, and he said, that what they're doing with Motor City Machine Guns is a stroke of genius. The fact that they came in, debuted last week, and in 3 matches, they're already the tag titles. Vince would have never allowed that, Max.
I know. Oh, no. We're talking outsiders that are coming in and usurping his company, invading his company. They could have gone 5 years in the WWE under Vince and never even seen a hint of the tag titles or been held just short every single time. And I'm torn on this because, listen, Motor City Machine Gun is great. They deserve the tag titles. However, the one thing I would have done differently is, personally, I wouldn't have had them tangle with the Bloodline just yet. Now, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't win the tag titles now, early on in their visit in the WWE, but I would have put this off a little bit longer, a couple more weeks, maybe do it at Crown Jewel, have them tangle there and get started with the Bloodline, just because of the fact that we're talking this established, violent, psychotic, goes into a rage group. And then you got the Motor City Machine Guns that are very technically sound. And this is not a feud you're ready to start when these guys are already in their own feud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would have just pushed it back just a little bit. But either way, congratulations to the Motor City Machine Guns. It's a very well-deserved tag title reign that you have. May it last for a while.
And, I never really watched SmackDown, but I'm so happy that I caught that because I did get to see them intro, or like them walk to the ring, which I've never seen before. And for them to win the tag titles, or for them to at least be the #1 contender, I'm like, okay, you know what? They're going to, like, DIY is going to put them over. They're going to be the #1 contenders. And then I did not even see that the Bloodline would even come out and do it on SmackDown in Brooklyn last night, which was really, really cool. Again, that's something that we would have never seen in a Vince McMahon era. So props, big props, because, I mean, let's be honest, Max, the viewership for SmackDown has been kind of hindering lately, and it's been on the low side of things. I hope that this helps. I really hope that this helps.
Hey, I want to touch on the other part of this match here in just a second, but the viewership is not something I'm overly worried about. Yes, they've had their ups and downs, but I think now that they're on USA, once Raw is moved to Netflix, I think SmackDown's viewership will get the boost that it needs. I think you're going to get the fans that are used to tuning into USA for Raw will start tuning in for SmackDown instead. The problem with Fox, in my opinion, is, you remember back in the day when you had the Westminster Kennel Dog Club show and Raw would get bumped over to a different channel, and so your ratings would waver, even around the jump to the other network. Your ratings weren't as good because the fans hate that. When I sit down to tune in for my wrestling show, I want it on at the same time every week, same channel, etc. I think once Raw makes its move, the fans are going to be like, you know what? I don't have Netflix. I have a show on USA, though, that I can tune into. Thank you, WWE, for doing that. And they're going to tune into SmackDown.
Well, yeah, it's just like, when I was a kid, I didn't have pay-per-view. I couldn't get pay-per-views. So every time the WWF pay-per-views were on, I was never able to see them. So I'd always tune into Raw to go see what happened on the pay-per-view. So that makes total sense.
Yeah. Now, I want to touch on what else happened in this match. If you guys watched SmackDown last week, when the Motor City Machine Guns made their debut, well, it wasn't when they made it. It was the same SmackDown. You see Jey Uso come out and confront Solo at the start of the night. And he told him, if what you're trying to do is unite the family, I'm all for that. But you got to do it right. And the way you're doing it right now, not right. Then you see Jey Uso backstage. Roman tells him he's proud of him. Jimmy starts to say something, and Jay's like, no yeet, and walks away. Doesn't want to hear it from them.
Mm-hmm.
Main event rolls around. The end of the night, Roman and Jimmy are left laying by the bloodline. Well, I already warned you once. You weren't doing it the right way. Now you forced my hand. I didn't want to go work with these guys. But guess what? New Friday night here, you put me back with my brother. You put me back with my cousin. And now we're coming for you guys. I'm sorry, that's quality storytelling in my opinion. You just took this do it right and turned it into a do it even better. I'm loving this, and I cannot wait for the return of the Wise Man because that's just going to make things even better.
Yeah, I hope it's soon that we see Paul Heyman. Really hope it's soon because I not only do I miss him, but just to add that element to the story and the way that Paul tells a story on the microphone and cuts that promo. My God, it's going to be epic. And I feel like wherever they debut Paul at, the arena is just going to erupt, just absolutely go nuts.
And that is not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, TKO has been in the news quite a bit. And here's one that Max, you shared with us, according to Sports Business Journal. Hold on to your seats for this one, folks. TKO Group has announced a $3.25 billion all-equity deal with Endeavor to acquire professional bull riders on location in IMG. The transaction is expected to close in the first half of next year, pending customary closing conditions and regulatory approvals. So now TKO and Endeavor own the PBR, professional bull riders. I mean, what are they gonna buy next? The paper airplane competitions? What the hell is this?
Before I answer your question, I would like to point out that this is no longer just wrestling and sports websites reporting it. Variety, CNBC, AOL, Guru Focus, which is a tech website, I believe.
Yeah.
Everybody has picked this up. This is not just sports news anymore that TKO is acquiring Pro Bull Riding. The next thing on the list, though, I have on. Has anybody here ever heard of Johnny Chestnut?
Yeah, Joey Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut, that's the name. Yes, Joey Chestnut. For those of you out there that do not know, is a hot dog eating champion. He actually has a title belt that says Nathan's on it, and he's a world champion, world record holder even.
And it's actually at he goes to like different college football games and he competes. He competitively eats against college students. Isn't that impressive?
Yeah. Now, I hear that TKO
every time.
I hear from a very reliable source that TKO is going after the hot dog eating championships. And this works out for them twofold because there's money to be made on this, but then they can go back to paying wrestlers with a hot dog and a handshake, just like they were used to back in the Indies.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And if you're gonna talk about a hot dog, you know, there's so many types of different hot dogs that you can do. You could be, you know, you could wish that you were an Oscar Mayer wiener. You could sing the song that everybody sings, hot dogs, Armour hot dogs. What kind of kids eat Armour hot dogs? Joey Chestnut would. Then you have, you know, what other kind of, what kind of hot dogs are we talking? Is it going to be bun length? Is it going to be what the thick like sausage hot dog thing that we get? Not the bratwurst, but what kind of hot dog? I got to know. I have got to know. This is science. This is news. I got to figure it out.
Disney's over here showing how knowledgeable he is about long meat.
I hate you, Max.
Yes!
I finally said it. I finally said it.
I've been waiting months.
Oh my God. Well, as we get into TKO news, the PBR, professional bull riders. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to see what else they buy next. Let's get into some more serious topics. Last year, we saw the integration of WWE and UFC into the TKO umbrella make a significant shift in the landscape of sports entertainment. With that said, TKO has now been accused of being fully aware of WWE scandals before the merger. Vince McMahon, at 77 years old, announced his retirement for the first time following hush money allegations back in 2022, and it was eventually revealed that McMahon paid $12 million in hush money to quite a few women over the last 20 years. In fact, an additional $5 million of unrecorded expenses were linked to Vince McMahon. And on January 25th, we all know the story of Janelle Grant. She initiated legal proceedings against WWE, John Laurinaitis, and Vinnie Mac. The lawsuit alleges that McMahon was involved in incidents of sexual assault, emotional abuse, sex trafficking, spanning the period from their first encounter in March of 2019 to March 2022. Now, after the sexual trafficking lawsuit, McMahon officially resigned from WWE and TKO Holdings. So while speaking to Brandon Thurston and Josh Pollock of WrestleNomics, ex-WWE ring boy Tom Cole's brother Lee Cole accused TKO of being fully aware of the various scandals associated with WWE. And he pointed out that during a multi-billion-dollar merger, the first step typically involves sending in investigators to review all relevant information. Now, according to Lee, TKO knew about the issues, including Vince McMahon's alleged efforts to buy off individuals in 2022. He emphasized that just 7 days after TKO's involvement, Vince was no longer with the company, suggesting that TKO's knowledge of the situation was evident. So again, with all this being, with us knowing, and I think with everybody else in WWE knowing who we know that aren't there anymore, being worried about Triple H and his involvement in all this and all of that. Max, where does this leave? Where does this leave us? Like, what do we have to think about next? What's the future steps for this?
I don't look. There's a couple ways to look at this. First off, I do agree 100% that the first thing you do when you're thinking about acquiring a major company like this, you send your people in to find out, is there anything we need to know? Something that could trip us up down the road. TKO made themselves aware of everything that they could, but is there a possibility that, because Vince McMahon didn't exactly leave quietly. He tried to bring himself back before the sale anyway, and then once the sale was done, he wasn't really seeming very welcome by TKO.
Right.
And they put Triple H in a bigger position of power. They brought Brock in on the board of directors, so maybe TKO realized that if they wanted to fix things, they needed to get rid of Vince McMahon. So the first step for that is buy the company from him. Because honestly, if you're a smart businessman, you're going to look at the WWE as a money maker. It's going to pull you in the cash that you want.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm the TKO guys, there's some scandals that are connected to the WWE, but if we get rid of this guy and this guy, we can rehab the image and make it a better place. That's what I would have done. I would have gotten rid of the problems, and they did. Laurinaitis is gone. Vince is gone.
Done.
One of the done. Done is gone. And you're left with Stephanie Trips and Shawn Michaels. So basically, the Attitude Era is now running the Asylum, and who's complaining about that? I know I'm not. Yeah. I think the Attitude Era running the Asylum is one of the best things that ever happened to the entire business.
Yeah.
This is even good news for you, Tony Khan, but we'll get to you later because I got positive thing to say about you today.
Oh, well, let's dive in. So this isn't the only thing that Lee Cole has talked about. Linda McMahon, who we haven't heard of in a very, very long time, who's now 76 years old, co-founded Titan Sports along with Vince McMahon 44 years ago. She held significant positions in WWE as president and CEO before departing in 2009 to run for United States Senate. She remains a controversial figure in pro wrestling as well as it appears now she has been accused as the mastermind behind several of the WWE scandal cover-ups. So if you were not aware, back in 1992, former WWE ring boy Tom Cole accused Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin of inappropriate sexual behavior when he was underage. Vince McMahon initially fired Phillips, but later brought him back with the condition that he stay away from children. Cole, who sadly took his own life in 2021, also accused Pat Patterson of making inappropriate gestures and resulted in a legal settlement with WWE. This situation is referred to as the Ring Boy scandal. So this in turn led to a lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, and TKO Group Holdings Incorporated. Now, while speaking to Brandon Thurston and Josh Pollock of WrestleNomics, Tom Cole's brother, Lee Cole, accused Linda McMahon of being involved in covering up both the Ring Boy scandal and the sexual assault of Ashley Massaro. He described Linda as a master of cover-ups, explaining that on the last day of a crucial board meeting, Vince McMahon left the room, telling Linda to take over. Lee claims Linda was responsible for managing his brother's situation and was deeply involved in the efforts to conceal the Ring Boy scandal. According to him, she also played a role in the cover-up related to Ashley Massaro. Lee contends that this pattern of behavior has been a consistent practice over the years. Such accusations are obviously to be taken very, very, very seriously, and fans feel this new lawsuit will be one that finally brings down Vince and others who were associated with so many scandals over the past few decades, which is why I brought up Triple H, which is why I brought up Stephanie McMahon and possibly Shawn Michaels. Who knows, Max, what those people know? Who knows what they know?
Hey, as much involvement as Trips has had, he might know more than we think. That's possible. And Shawn has been attached to the WWE hip for as long as I can remember, minus when he retired and actually stayed home for a couple of months. So it's possible they know stuff. And I guarantee Stephanie knows some stuff. There's a thing that I wanted to point out, that something that's not necessarily common knowledge, but when Vince, there was a point where we may not have talked about this on the show, we may have. Vince suggested a storyline that nobody wanted to be a part of. Everybody was like, no, that's wrong, that's crossing a line. Yes, we did and it was an incest angle with Stephanie that he was proposing. A lot of people may not know this, but Linda threatened to divorce him over that proposed storyline.
Yeah.
And I can tell you at this point that Linda has been separated from him, at least separated is the report I'm getting, since 2022, after she learned of the alleged affair with, I'm guessing, Janelle Grant. It just says former employee. Now, is it possible that back in the day she didn't believe the reports and so was covering stuff up? That's very possible. And they say that behind every successful businessman is a smart woman who is supporting him. And if you don't think Linda is that smart woman, you haven't been paying attention to what she has done over the years.
Yeah.
When she got involved in politics, she distanced herself from the WWE, which was smart, because WWE, while it's beloved by the world, You have a group of people out there that don't like it, that are all involved in voting on the side of the aisle that she's on. So she needed to get that support. So she had to distance herself from the company that has its secrets, right? So that was smart. And if you think that's the only smart thing this woman has ever done in her life, you're not paying attention. She knew when it was time to threaten divorce. She knew when it was time to separate. She had to have known something was going on with Ashley Mazzaro. She knew that Vince was wrong for wanting to do the storyline with Stephanie. She may have covered some stuff up back then, but personally, based on what I know about about her more recent actions, I honestly think she did it because she didn't believe Vince was guilty of what he was being accused of. He's a powerful man.
Well, and what was Vince telling her too?
Right. You're gonna get these accusations as a powerful man, whether you did something or not. Now, 9 times out of 10, you probably did it, Vince. But there's people out there that they want money, and it's a sad fact, which is part of the reason it makes it so hard to believe the victims. And I always believe the victim. I always will. But you have people out there that have made that difficult because they're money grubbers that are reporting only to make money. And it's a minority. Thankfully, it is a vast minority. But in this case, I think Linda believed Vince and said, well, they're probably just after the money. We're going to scoop this under the rug. Unfortunately, this was one of those cases where they should have believed the victims. And I do.
Yeah, I mean, you should never take for granted, you should never take it for granted what the victim is going through. And I know that people like to go after big corporations or big companies for money, especially if the allegations that they have against this person are not true. But this one is very, very true. It's very real. It actually happened, and it's sick. And Linda should have like distanced herself from Vince a very, very long time ago. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I still think the two that knew the most were Laurinaitis and Dunn, and they also went when Vince left. So at least we've protected our backside by doing that. Yeah.
And now, as far as what Triple H is gonna, what's gonna happen with Triple H and all that, and maybe possibly Shawn Michaels, we're still. I don't know. I don't think anything will happen to them as of yet. There's been rumors that since TKO has come in, they've got some kid running around with Triple H trying to learn this business and all the years of knowledge that Triple H has. I just don't see that holding any weight. I really don't. How could you put how long has Triple H been in the wrestling business? Like 40 something years, 20 something.
I would say at least 30 because he was around in the 90s.
Yeah. So, I mean, you add up all of the experience that Triple H has, and you can't teach that overnight. You just can't do that overnight. So, it's just mind-boggling to think that anything would ever happen to Triple H, even though it could, if there's something that tying to him. We're hoping that there's not.
We're hoping 34 years, by the way.
34 years of knowledge. You can't teach that overnight, So we'll keep an eye on this situation. Obviously it's a very developing situation. We'll keep an eye on it. But I can tell you, Max, that I was very happy last week. I was so happy. And you want to know why? Because, I'll tell you. I'm so happy about this. Samantha Irvin announced her departure from WWE before Monday Night Raw this week and utterly shocked the world in a big way and made Dizzy a very, very happy man. Fans wondered what the future would be for Irvin after her exit, and it appears her plans have been revealed. Her reasoning for leaving the company was because of her music career, and after her sudden departure, fans were left wondering if she could possibly be all elite. Now, Dave Meltzer did break this news, and though he was correct when he revealed that Irvin had been contemplating this decision for some time in order to focus on her music career, Brian Alvarez mentioned that Irvin had outside projects that she wanted to pursue, but couldn't find a way to balance them with her WWE commitments. And Meltzer also shared that Irvin had been thinking about leaving for nearly a year. As a singer and a flautist, her passion lies in music, and she ultimately decided to prioritize it. There's no immediate plan for her to join Ricochet in All Elite Wrestling. And Ricochet actually tweeted that it wasn't her intention to move there. Meltzer also pointed out a parallel to Lillian Garcia, who left WWE for similar musical ambitions, which was not true. Not true. She left because her father had cancer, and her father eventually passed away. But Lillian, yes, she's a fantastic singer. She did not leave for musical ambitions. Irvin's exit, though, is driven by her desire to follow her true passion in music, since wrestling was never her main interest growing up. But I believe that Samantha Irvin, real name Samantha Johnson, isn't really as good as she claims. She compares herself to Ariana Grande. All right. I think she's more heavy metal wannabe Corey Taylor with her stupid growl. And I, for one, am so happy that she's gone, because we do get Lillian Garcia again. And I'm so happy for that. So happy. Max is completely speechless.
Look, I love Lillian. Don't get me wrong. Lillian is phenomenal. She was the voice of my generation when I was watching her and Buffer. I got to give Buffer credit.
Fink? Well, what about Fink?
I mean, Fink was great, but I mean, nobody wanted to look at that bald head. But Buffer's voice stands out, though. I mean, people have been sued because they tried to use Buffer's voice. Mm-hmm. But Lillian is amazing. I love her. I love her voice. I don't understand all the hate for Samantha Irvin. I liked her. I enjoyed her announcing. I wish her well in her future endeavors. And I can't wait to start watching Lillian again, because I didn't have the TV this past week, so I didn't watch Raw.
I'll tell you why I didn't like Samantha Irvin. I do wish her well in her future endeavors, but here's why. She was way too over the top when it came to any ring announcing. She was just way too much. And you don't need to be okay. Normally, if there's a singles competition, there are two wrestlers in the ring. Those are the main focus, right? Those are the main focus. Those two. Samantha Irvin tried to make herself the focus with her announcing, and I just never liked the way that she announced. I always felt that she wanted to be like the star of it all. And when you compare her to Lillian Garcia, or even The Fink, or even Michael Buffer, all those three versus Samantha Irvin, to me, she's just a try-hard, man. That's all I have to say about it. Is she's just a big try-hard, and I was never a fan of her. But I do wish her well in her future endeavors and all that. But I'm happy that we have Lillian Garcia. Let's move on to From the Desk of Max Magus. And this one, it involves RVD. All right. So during a recent episode of his podcast, Hall of Famer Rob Van Dam reflected on an interesting aspect of his time in WWE, not being allowed to use the word wrestler. The rule put in place, of course, by Vince McMahon was a key part of WWE's push towards sports entertainment over professional wrestling. RVD said, quote, "Everyone knows where I was in WWE. Vince had long ago decided that we were sports entertainment, right? We weren't allowed to call ourselves rustlers. Everybody in 2020 or 2001, 2002, though at least most of it, if that never changed, then I don't know when the fuck it was. Van Damme explained that superstars had to be cautious with their wording during promos to align with WWE's branding policies. He said, quote, if we did a promo and said, hey, that's right, one of your favorite wrestlers is coming to your town, they go, cut one of your favorite superstars. Okay, and he said that was a rule and maybe that's changed now. But with that being said, Max, do you think RVD is right with that? Obviously, we know Vince, and he had major backlash on anybody who ever messed up in the slightest. But since TKO is now majority owner of WWE, do you think we'll ever see the term wrestler replace superstar?
So, first off, I do think that there's so much more than just wrestlers now.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been. I mean, they got to cut promos. They got to do this. They got to do that. I mean, they really are superstars. Does that mean they're any less of a wrestler than they were, though? No. You could have kept the term wrestler, even though they're more than wrestlers. And I do think that it does hurt, because to live up to the superstar name, you have to do more than wrestle. You have to do backstage stuff. You have to be able to do the promos. You have to be able to do them in the ring. You have to, and some wrestlers are really good at this. Sean is great. While you're in the ring doing something with an opponent, you got to get the crowd involved. Honky Tonk Man, when he came out here and worked RMCW with us, he was telling us this story about how he was working a guy's arm in a match one time. And he's sitting there, he's having a conversation with the front row as he's doing it. Hey, you want to take his arm? You want to take it down to the bus station, do something with it? You know, I'll give you his arm. You can take it with you, as he's working this guy's arm. Some people are better at that than others, but they're so much more than wrestlers. They are superstars. But
Okay.
The term hurts, because you still call it Monday Night Raw. It's professional wrestling. You know, all of this is associated with wrestling. Or if you're from the South, it's associated with wrestling.
Yes.
And what's the difference between wrestling and wrestling? About a 50 IQ point. The thing is, TKO will probably at least consider it. I don't know that they'll do it. Triple H, while he has a brilliant mind for stories, he's kind of an old school guy, but he also understands the reasoning behind naming them superstars. And part of that was to make sure that they were not able to be regulated by state sports commissions. And if they sit down and review all that, I don't think they're going to go back to the term wrestler for that reason. Whereas the other companies, as long as they call their wrestlers, they may find themselves subject to sports commissions in various states.
Yeah.
There's a reason for and a reason against on this whole term. As much as I'd love to see them referred to as wrestlers again, it's so much easier to avoid sports commissions and just do your show.
Yeah, because I mean, we're seeing all the dealings with the sports commission with this whole boxing match coming up between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. So that might be one way to look at it. So, and that's why I love your intake on this, because you've been in this business for so long, and you know the backstory more than what me or the other guys do, and that's what I appreciate about you, Max.
Here's another thing, though. On the other hand, TKO does the MMA stuff, so they're already dealing with the sports commission in various states. It may not be too big of a deal to go back to wrestler if you've already got a rapport with the sports commissions.
Well, that's true too. Let's move on to some AEW news, and big news for the company. AEW has filed 3 new trademarks, Max, further signaling exciting developments ahead. So on October 25th, 2024, the company submitted applications to trademark the terms AEW Max Month, AEW Russell Max, and Russell Max. So, like DX said, let's break it down. Okay. So
No,
what
I will not wrestle for AEW. They can stop asking.
so what do these trademarks mean? The descriptions for these trademarks suggest that AEW is expanding its programming and live event offerings. Each trademark covers a wide range of entertainment services, including live wrestling performances, production and distribution of wrestling events and television programs, ongoing series featuring wrestling across TV, streaming, and the internet, and multimedia content provided through radio, television, satellite, and computer networks. These filings come as AEW prepares for a major shift with its new media rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, starting in January of next year, AEW programming will continue to air on TNT and TBS while also simulcasting on the streaming platform Max. AEW's strategic push on Max. So with the addition of that, adding Max to its broadcast portfolio, the trademarks for AEW Max Month and Russell Max hit a potential exclusive content, themed programming, or events tied to the streaming service. So AEW's commitment to growing its multimedia presence aligns with their goal of reaching new audiences through both television and digital platforms. And this media expansion positions AEW to stay competitive against WWE while tapping into Warner Brothers Discovery's vast streaming infrastructure. So what could this Russell Max be, right? So the term Russell Max suggests the possibility of new branded events or even a special monthly series, whether it's an original tournament or a streaming exclusive wrestling show or maybe a themed pay-per-view style content. Fans are eager to see what AEW has in store. So that's huge news. Huge news for AEW. And Max, you actually had some positive notes for Tony Khan. Let's hear those.
Let me come back to those because I want to talk about these names. WrestleMax would have to be a pay-per-view or premium live event of some sort.
Yeah.
Because that name, unless you're only using it because you're on Max, which is a horrible reason to name your show WrestleMax, that implies a big deal show.
Yeah.
WrestleMax Month or whatever that one was makes me think of a recap show or AEW Max Month.
Yeah. Let me run back up. So Russell Max, AEW Max Month, and that's it and Russell Max.
So AEW Max Month is either a monthly recap or it's a month where they honor Max. And I mean, yeah, I'd love to be honored for a month, but we're talking about Max, the streaming service, and unless it was in the deal, do you guys really have to keep kissing up now that you have the deal?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't seem right. But I do want to shine a light on something that you're doing right. Okay. We have long talked about how you keep recycling WWE storylines or WCW storylines, and you finally did one right. I didn't think you would do it. I thought you were going to screw it up from the start, and having John Moxley be the face of your version of the invasion was brilliant. Moxley is perfect for that. Okay. Here's what you got to keep in mind, though. You have to have an equally perfect leader on the other side of the aisle. Darby Allin's great, but you want leading this? Orange Cassidy, I really don't think he's the one. Private Party, not even close to being the right ones.
Yeah.
We were talking about this here the other night, and here's a couple suggestions for you. If you're not going to go with Darby Allin and make it be a grudging, all right, I'll lead this because it's the right thing to do, you have 3 top options for this. It cannot be someone like Adam Cole. It cannot be Edge. Do you know why it can't be Adam Cole or Edge? Because it's an invasion angle. These guys came in from an outside company. Yeah. It has to be one of the guys that you have New Japan doesn't count in the grand scope of what's an outside company and what's not, because you guys have this deal with New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to consider is your three top choices are MJF, who is just arrogant enough to pull it off,
Mm-hmm.
Hangman Adam Page, who is one of your originals,
Mm-hmm.
or the man himself. And you're going to have the Bucks go to him humbly to make the story work and get him back. And that is Kenny Omega. These are your three best options to pull this off the right way. I like where you started. I'm giving you credit right now. Moxley being in charge, Cesaro joining him. Wheeler's a little bit of a weird choice, but I'm okay with that. I'll allow that. Having Darby and Orange Cassidy being the first couple on the other side, great start. Now let's build from here and do it right.
Yeah, this whole invasion angle has been absolutely fantastic. I agree with you. Who they've chosen to lead AEW against John Moxley is not up to par. They don't have the oomph or the expertise to be leading AEW against John Moxley. And I agree. The three choices that you just said, MJF, Kenny Omega, or who was the third one?
Hangman
Adam Page. Out of those three, I would say I would personally want to see Kenny Omega come back. I personally would love to see Kenny Omega come back and just lead against this invasion. And I know a lot of people are tired of invasion angles and all that, but that's what keeps it fresh. That's what keeps it going. This is the momentum that AEW needed, because they were just kind of stalled on programming. They were just stalled. I watched Dynamite this past week, and it was just the only good thing that came out of it was the invasion angle. And this is the same thing that happened with TNA, with Aces and Eights, when they came in, and the way that they did it was just absolutely stellar. But that's the same thing, though. You bring in a new face to the storylines, and this is what we need. This is what we need to keep things going, and the momentum and everything like that, especially with AEW. This has been a breath of fresh air, and I'm here for it.
And listen, all those empty seats you see at arenas, if you do this invasion angle right, you're going to see AEW fill those seats again. This is something necessary to the continued longevity of AEW. Now, there's one other thing I feel I have to point out here. I think John Moxley is boots on the ground, the one in charge, but I don't think he's the one pulling the strings on the invasion side. I think, and this is because of the rumblings, I think the man behind the curtain knows all about invasion angles. Mm-hmm. Was part of one himself. In fact, he represented WCW in WWE's invasion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the man behind the curtain is going to turn out to be Shane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's weird too, because every time you're hinting at something, I always think you're going to go to Sting. Since Sting was in AEW, he's also part of the invasion angle. I always think you're going to say Sting, but Shane McMahon, my God, that would be huge for this company. And for those that are maybe not fans of AEW currently, and the way that they're telling stories and their TV and the production and things like that, hang on, because I think this invasion thing is going to take us for a wild ride. But Max, who do you think would be on the side of Shane? Okay, so let's say Shane McMahon comes out and he makes his debut in AEW. He's all elite. Do you think that Shane would side up with AEW, or do you think that he would side up with John Moxley?
if you play this right, and this is the mind of a booker is looking at this, I would have Shane show up, and I would go to Darby. I don't care who is currently the top tier in the AEW side. I'd go to Darby. I would say, hey, it seems like you have a little invasion problem going on here. I have experience with those. I'm willing to help for a cost.
Mm-hmm.
Have him convince the AEW guys, I've come here to help you with your invasion problem. And I have not only experience with invasions, but I have experience with these guys. I know Moxley. I know Cesaro. I know how they think, and I can help you get this dealt with. That is where they should go with that, and then have him turn on them to show that he is the master of puppets on the invasion side. Now, you're going to see some fun stuff. Christian came from WWE. Luchasaurus did not.
Mm-hmm.
And since they're still the patriarchy at the moment, I think you see, I mean, most likely you're going to see Christian turn on him to join the invasion. But I think it would be smart if Luchador starts getting suspicious and is the one to walk away.
Yeah, that would be, well, because he's also, I think Killswitch is also sick, isn't he? I thought that there was he had some health problems, and he really hasn't been out with the patriarchy as much. And I could be wrong about that, him being out. I think I did hear him about being sick and all that. But
it does look like he was hospitalized the end of September.
Okay.
He had pneumonia and something else.
Yeah.
His fiance found him collapsed the Friday before the 27th. His blood oxygen level was found to be below 80%, which is dangerously low. Normal levels 95 to 100. Had pneumonia in both lungs, and then he was days away from permanent lung damage. He was put on oxygen. But when were they in the UK? Was that before or after?
They were in the UK for All In.
But when? What was that? September?
I think that was in August.
Okay. So I was saying he looked fine that night. So, but I was hoping that was after. Oh, he hasn't competed in the ring since Wembley, according to this article. But this article is from September 30th. Okay. So I'm not seeing anything more recent than the articles that are reporting on that. But it's not just. But they're just the best example to do that with. You can do it with anybody else. To answer freaking Punk, Marina Shafir is already with Mox. She was. I mean, obviously, you guys know who she was. She was with the Four Horsewomen in WWE. Though they never actually got the faction off the ground. And she came over to AEW recently. I suspect you'll see like Paige join Mox's crew, Soraya. Britt Baker will obviously go the other side. She who shall not be named will probably join Mox's crew.
And it's funny because I know exactly who you're talking about.
Anybody that's watched the show should know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Alexa Bliss will not be joining Mox's crew.
Oh.
She'll be joining the Uncle Howdy's crew very soon.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready for that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where they take this invasion angle. So I'm looking forward to it. And if you've been questioning about AEW, if you've been questioning about it and where they're going to go, I love it. Hang on for a wild ride because it's going to get crazy. Let's talk about this. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Before
I
we
was
move
just
on.
going to say right now, the two storylines that I am enjoying the most in pro wrestling are the Bloodline.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm about to say this over the Wyatt Six because let's be fair, the Wyatt Six hasn't really done as much as we anticipated. My other favorite storyline right now is the Invasion.
Yeah, I hear you. Wyatt Six, they came back to Raw and they who did they? Oh, they I think they're getting ready to start an angle against what's his name? The Authors of Pain, AOP.
Oh, Final
Testament. Final Testament.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're getting ready to start that angle, which will be really, really good. How do you attack Paul Ellerling and things like that. So that's going to be a really good angle. So those are the top 3 angles that I'm looking forward to: is the Wyatt 6 and the Final Testament, the Bloodline, and this invasion angle on WWE. Let's move on. And there's been some rumor for some time, even before the AEW and WBD deal was set in concrete, that the company planned to announce this AEW Shockwave on Fox, but it might not be as close to reality as fans hoped. Though excitement has been building with reports that AEW and Fox have been in talks for over a month, sources suggest that we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. While AEW recently filed a trademark for AEW Shockwave, and Swerve Strickland even teased AEW's presence on Fox, sources suggest that things are far from finalized with this. Initially, it was speculated the Shockwave could debut on either Tuesday or Thursdays, potentially reigniting the rivalry with WWE NXT. But it looks like we will probably need to wait a little longer to see if this materializes. AEW's ongoing relationships with Warner Brothers Discovery remains very solid, but the Fox deal, which would see AEW programming replace the void left by SmackDown, is still up in the air with no formal announcement in sight. It's unclear when or if this new show will come to life. And I'll say this, with you already having, 3 programs, AEW, Dynamite, you have Rampage, and you have Collision, which I thought they were going to do away with Rampage. But either way, why would you introduce a new show to the fans if you can't even write well enough stories for the 2 other shows that you have? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we adding more crap upon crap? And this is exactly why I'm kind of interested in seeing what the WWE speed numbers pull in when they go on, when they air that on X, the X platform. I'm interested to see what those numbers would be, because I don't feel like anybody ever watches X or Speed or whatever. And I don't think anybody would watch the Shockwave on Fox for AEW. I really don't, because you don't have the storylines. Are you just going to, I'm just very concerned about that. Though I am very optimistic about this whole invasion angle in AEW, I'm very concerned about why they feel the need to go to Fox to put more programming on when you already have 3 shows that you can't even write for, and they're very just kind of stagnant. Max, am I right in that? Am I right? Am I concerned?
I mean, you're absolutely right. But I think what's really telling here, and I've mentioned it before, the butts in the seats.
Yeah.
Fox is not stupid. Fox is looking at your ticket sales. They're looking at your ratings. They're going, wait, if you can't handle these 3 shows, why are we going to want to put a 4th show, brand new show for you on our network? So I really think Fox is the hang up on Shockwaves, because they want to see more from AEW, want to see them put in more effort before they go, yeah, here you go. Here's a 4th show to spread yourself even thinner on.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't see, if this whole thing does go through, I don't see Shockwave being a live show. I think it's going to be pre-recorded, but where would you record it at? Would you record it before Dynamite? Would you record it before Collision? I don't know. I have no idea. Would you make Shockwave part of the ROH thing? Like bring the ROH talent into Shockwave?
You got to do something with your ROH stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I can't call her a friend, but I know her. She worked for a wrestling fed here in Colorado. She did a dark match for AEW a few years ago and has been working with them ever since. And do you want to know how I found out she's got a Ring of Honor women's title shot?
How?
I found out from her Facebook.
Huh. Really?
Yeah, if I hadn't seen the page, the post pop up today, I never would have known.
So she has a title shot for the ROH championship?
Here, hold on. I believe she's challenging for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. Where's it at here? There's one of these pictures. Or maybe she is issuing the challenge for it. I don't know if it's been accepted yet, but yeah, she totally showed up and decimated the Ring of Honor celebration that was going on for the women's title and said it will be hers.
So I didn't even know this. I just Googled, is Ring of Honor still on TV? And here's what Google said. Khan announced that ROH's weekly televised program will be aired on the relaunched Honor Club streaming platform starting in 2023. I never even heard of that. Have you?
No.
This is new. Honor, it's called the Honor Club streaming platform, where I would assume it's like TNA Plus, where you can, or like Peacock or whatever the case. I would compare it to more TNA, but you can subscribe to this Honor Club and watch Ring of Honor programming, but it doesn't make sense. Tony Khan is so underutilizing Ring of Honor right now that we have no clue. We have no clue. And Ring of Honor used to be on Access TV a long time ago. I feel
like the show did better before Tony bought it, because now here we are talking about how the hell do we watch it?
2009, 10 seasons of Ring of Honor wrestling on Access TV. It just boggles my mind on what the fuck Tony Khan is actually doing with Ring of Honor. AEW is his company. I get that. Ring of Honor is a company that he bought. But I just don't understand why you're not utilizing these people. Why you're not utilizing these wrestlers who are really good at Ring of Honor, and they need the TV time on AEW, since clearly they're not getting Ring of Honor TV time on anywhere else. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And now he wants to do this whole Shockwaves thing on Fox. The only way that you could do that is if you bring over your Ring of Honor guys and girls and have their storylines carried over. That is how you get them on TV time for AEW. That's it. Go ahead.
I've said before that I think that they just need to turn Ring of Honor into their developmental, treat it like NXT, but make sure it's on TV. Because otherwise, how are you going to develop these people? Sure. And then you have your various shows like you do in WWE. The problem is why WWE does very well on their two main shows and their developmental. Why would you want to expand beyond that? It seems like all you're going to do is stretch yourself thin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when before NXT, WWE, they paired up with Ohio Valley Wrestling, and they actually helped put them on the map. Because of the way that Vince worked with them, the way that they introduced them onto TV. That's how we know the name. That's how it became a household name. Ohio Valley Wrestling. Ring of Honor is a household name too, but now it's become so forgotten about because Tony Khan is not utilizing these people. So the only way that I could think, if Fox actually signs on for the Shockwaves thing, put your Ring of Honor people there, turn Ring of Honor into a developmental, put them on TV, and then make them ready. Get them ready for AEW, or if they want to step outside of AEW. But at least somebody's got eyes on these guys and gals that are actually trying to perfect themselves in Ring of Honor, in the world of professional wrestling. I just don't understand it. So we move on to some TNA news.
Did you see the scary part of that picture?
I saw yeah.
He has hair on top of his head.
Yeah, and I don't know if our backstage producer could pull that up at any point, but it's a picture of Claudio Castagnoli with hair on his head. It's just so crazy to me. Crazy to see that man with any hair. But we move on. It would be like J-Bone. J-Bone had hair.
Right?
you know. So we move on to some TNA news. We're going to get to our predictions coming up here soon for Bound for Glory for tonight. I think that show is tonight. Let's move on and talk about Santino Marella. In case you've missed things on TNA, Santino Marella has been part of the TNA family for the past couple of years, where he's currently the director of authority and makes hard but fair decisions for all the matches. Fans also get to see his daughter, Ariana Grace, make her way through professional wrestling. Marella actually took to his Instagram recently and revealed that he went to Cancun for some stem cell therapy recently. Marella underwent a series of treatments aimed at improving his health and recovery. His procedures included intradiscal injections in his cervical and lumbar spine, along with stem cell injections in both knees, his right shoulder, and his right bicep. Additionally, Marella received 100 million stem cells intravenously, which were targeted to specific areas using shockwave therapy to create intentional inflammation. He also spent time in a hyperbaric chamber, which oxygenates, God dang it, it gives oxygen to the body. I can't say that word since I'm not a fucking doctor, to enhance the effectiveness of the stem cells. Although he couldn't capture photos in the operating room, he's especially excited to see the results from his spinal injections as he prepares for his in-ring return. So we'll have to wait and see when Santino Marella will be able to do that, go back to in-ring action, as it's quite clear he's doing everything necessary to be healthy enough to compete again at the moment. So that's the question of the day. Do you think that Santino Marella will ever wrestle again, Max?
I would like to keep the door open on hope. The guy was very entertaining in the ring. If he does, it's going to be for a company other than WWE. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't think WWE is going to take the risk with his health. WWE has been very strict about that. It was a huge fight for Daniel Bryan and Edge to finally get clearance to get back into the WWE ring. Daniel Bryan's doctor had cleared him like a year prior, but WWE wouldn't budge. So I don't think you'll ever see Santino in a WWE ring in a wrestling capacity. He might come in as entertainment, but it would be up to TNA or another company to let him wrestle again at that point.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I hope, because I know Santino misses in-ring action, so I hope that he can at least get healthy enough to go back into the ring and do something like what Max said, entertainment or anything like that. But we'll just have to wait and see. But good for Santino on getting the help that he needs. Let's move on to some Joe Hendry news. I believe in Joe Hendry. Who gained recognition for his performances in TNA and really impressed during his time in NXT, continues to take the pro wrestling world by storm thanks to his insane charisma and his musical skills. and he's very protective of all of his songs. The most impressive thing about Joe Hendry is his near infinite creativity when it comes to music. He sings all of his songs, and that includes now his iconic I Believe in Joe Hendry theme song, among many others. While speaking to the One Mona, Joe Hendry revealed that his re-debut video at Bound for Glory was poorly filmed in a rush. He recognized the need to replace it before the next taping. He admitted that he had never mentioned before that the video was strange and acknowledged that he was about to head to the airport at the time of filming. So it was pointed out to Hendry that there is now a 10-hour loop of that video on YouTube, allowing someone else to profit from it. To address this, Hendry has trademarked all of his material and plans to issue a legal notice to those making money off of his content. He intends to copyright strike the video, fully aware he might receive some backlash for it, but he feels that it's necessary since others have been profiting off of his work. Joe Hendry has worked very, very hard for all of the things that he has in his life, including his songs. And so he has to protect every single part of his intellectual property and send legal notices to those who might try to make a profit off of his work. Nonetheless, we'll have to see if he will drop the hammer on some of these accounts soon enough. Max, I didn't even know there was a 10-hour loop of his video on YouTube. Did you?
I had no clue.
Yeah.
I love the usages that I've seen of his music, but I also understand that we have rules in this country about how you can use somebody's music. And if you are making profit off of somebody else's creativity,
mm-hmm.
you can face that lawsuit and lose. Now, I know there's people out there that are going to be like, well, what about Weird Al? Weird Al falls under a category of satire or spoof or parody. Yeah. Parody, which as long as he changes X amount, he's not sued. Now, the other thing that actually gets permission from every singer or songwriter before he parodies them. But that's the thing is, if you're not changing Hendry's music that X percent, you're going to have to deal with the lawsuit. Even if Hendry was like, no, I'm fine with it, copyright law being what it is in the U.S., you're facing that lawsuit.
Yeah. Yeah. And, props for Joe Hendry for protecting what's his. And because, again, he's worked so hard for all of this. I mean, for not only him being a musical, I wouldn't say a musical genius, but I'd say his creativity for music is it's something that you don't find regularly. But he's also creative enough to tie these into his promos for wrestling, which is fantastic. I give him all the props in the world, man. So that's one thing that I really, really like about Joe Hendry. But Max, it is time to talk TNA Bound for Glory. And before we get to the card and our predictions, there are some other matches and segments for Bound for Glory, and it's as follows. The Call Your Shot Gauntlet is back, featuring the TNA's top stars competing for the chance to challenge for any championship at any time, which is really cool. Recently on Impact, AJ Francis secured the number 20 spot, while Frankie Kazarian must start the match at number 1. And another match, Ash and Heather by Elegance will face Xia Brookside and Brindley Reese in tag team action. Josh Alexander will also square off against Steve Macklin in a highly personal match. Rhino and co-founder Bob Ryder will also be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame as well. Very cool. So let's go ahead and give you the card for TNA Bound for Glory and our predictions. And Max, we're going to start with you, sir. The TNA, we're going to start it hot and heavy, man. The TNA World Heavyweight Championship match between Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. Who do you got?
This is not going to go over well with certain members of the chat. freaking Punk for one, because he doesn't believe in Joe Hendry. And I'm pretty sure Courtney is like all in on Nick Nemeth as much as she believes in Joe Hendry.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, I really think Joe Hendry's gonna do this. I think it's time.
Yeah, I agree. TNA Tag Team Championship, Full Metal Mayhem match. The System versus the Hardys versus ABC. Who do you got, Max?
I don't know all those names.
I know.
I've never heard of them. I'm going to go with the Hardys just because the other names make no sense to me.
Okay. right on. The TNA Digital Media Championship and International Heavyweight Championship Monsters Ball match between PCO and Matt Cardona.
This is going to be Matt Cardona, but I would also like to point out that in my memory, the last time we had a Monsters Ball match, we still had Abyss in TNA.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
I could be wrong, but my memory says that was the last time we had a Monsters Ball match.
I think you're right. I wish we had J-Bone here, but I think you're right. That'll be interesting. The TNA Knockouts Championship match between Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich.
Listen, I'm sure Masha is a very talented woman. She's clearly a scary woman with that Russian sounding name, but I'm going Jordan Grace.
Okay. TNA X Division Championship match between Mike Bailey and El Hijo Del. We'll just go El Del. Because I can't pronounce his fucking name for the life of me, and I wish J-Bo was here.
Listen, I got you. Is Mike Bailey versus El Hijo del Vikingo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
and just because I enjoy watching you try to say it, I'm going with El Hijo del Vikingo.
El Hijo del Vikingo.
There you go. That wasn't bad at all.
Not bad. No, not bad for the first try. TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship match between Spitfire versus Wendy Chu and Rosemary.
That was something I was actually looking up before, and I never finished. Spitfire's Jody Threat and Danny Luna. You know what? I said this in the chat before the show, and I'm gonna stick by it. It's scary how much Wendy Chu's current gimmick is perfect for teaming up with Rosemary. I'm giving this match to Wendy and Rosemary.
Yeah. Okay. Mike Santana versus Moose from the System.
Oh, here we go with that name I don't recognize again. Let's see here.
Moose is the big scary dude in the System. One of the big scary dudes in the System.
I remember Moose because he had the title not too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I don't know anything about the System, but I'm going to go with Moose.
Okay. Josh Alexander versus Steve Macklin.
Didn't he be a announcer somewhere?
Say that again.
Didn't Josh Alexander used to be an announcer somewhere?
I don't know. I don't know on that one.
Nope, that's definitely not the guy I was thinking of. I see a picture of him on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
Looking at these pictures, I'm going to go with Steve Macklin because I really feel like he could beat Josh Alexander down and not even break a sweat.
Yeah, well, now you have to remember Josh Alexander is a heel, so and it's really kind of a refreshing gimmick for Josh to be a heel because he does such a good job at it. This is some of the pre-show matches. The Call Your Shot Gauntlet match between Frankie Kazarian, AJ Francis, Sami Callihan, Laredo Kid, Jake Something, Jason Hotch, and more to be determined. Now, AJ Francis will enter last. Frankie Kazarian will enter the first. So who do you think?
I'm gonna go with Frankie.
Okay. And Brinley Reese and Zaya Brookside versus Ash and Heather by Elegance, which you said you mentioned that you don't know why Ash and Heather by Elegance are on a pre-show.
Yeah, I feel like this is insulting that they put them on the pre-show. I think that Ash and Heather deserve a main roster position or a main card position on this show.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Elegance on this.
Okay. Yeah. All right. It's time for and of course we have Rhino and Bob Ryder set for TNA Hall of Fame induction too. So
I pick Rhino.
I pick Rhino. Well, I pick Rhino and Bob Ryder. So
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship match between Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry, I'm going to call this match of the night number 3 because I see 3 matches here being very, very, very good. But I'm going to have to go with Max on this one. I think Joe Hendry will take home the belt. I think it's time. I think Nick has done a fantastic job as the World Heavyweight Champion. And I still like Nick Nemeth, but I believe it's Joe Hendry's time if he can sign a new contract with TNA and he doesn't let it expire and he eventually goes to WWE. But I'm going to say Joe Hendry because Joe Hendry's just fun. The TNA Tag Team Championship Full Metal Mayhem match between the System, the Hardys, and ABC. I'm going to go with the Hardys on this one. And I think it's going to be match of the night number 2. The TNA Digital Media Championship and International Heavyweight Championship Monsters Ball match, PCO versus Matt Cardona. It's a Monsters Ball match. I think PCO is going to go over, but I wouldn't be mad if Matt Cardona won. The TNA Knockouts Championship, Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich. And again, I've seen Jordan Grace in the ring. She's super good. I think this is going to be match of the night number 1. Jordan Grace will go for the win. The TNA X Division Championship match, Mike Bailey versus, again, El Hijo del Vikingo? Or did I? All right, cool.
You're good. You're good.
Thank you. I'm gonna say Mike Bailey on this one. Since his name is easy to pronounce. The TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship match, Spitfire versus Wendy Chu and Rosemary. I'm going to say Wendy Chu and Rosemary to go over on this one. Mike Santana and Moose. I say Moose. Josh Alexander and Steve Macklin. I'm going to say Josh Alexander. I like Steve Macklin, but I really am digging Josh as a heel. So I'm going to say Josh Alexander. The Call Your Shot Gauntlet match with Frankie Kazarian, AJ Francis, Sammy Callahan, Laredo Kid, and Jake Something, and Jason Hotch, and more to be determined. AJ Francis again enters last. Frankie Kazarian will enter first. I'm going to say Frankie Kazarian stays in for the whole match and wins. And finally, Brinley Reese and Zaya Brookside versus Ash and Heather by Elegance. I'm with Max on this one. I don't know why we're putting Ash and Heather by Elegance on a pre-show match. I have no idea, but I'm going to say Ash and Heather by Elegance wins that match. And then I'm really excited to see the Hall of Fame induction for Bob Ryder and Rhino. So I'm looking forward to that. And don't forget also, tomorrow night, we have NXT Halloween Havoc, which is going to be very, very, very good. So
it's one of my favorite. Well, it's no longer a PLE; it's a TNA show. But yeah.
What is the TNA show?
Or sorry, it's an NXT show. Halloween Havoc. Sorry, I'm very disappointed. The names that are listed for the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match so far, even though it's an intergender match, they have not listed any of the women that are involved.
Really? That's weird. I guess they're just leaving it up to I guess they're just leaving it as a surprise, maybe, which would be good, because I don't like knowing all the names that are going to be in the gauntlet matches or the big matches,
I don't necessarily want all the names, but it would be nice to know some of the names.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it would be nice, but that's what I think that's what gets you to watch it, buy the PLE and then watch it and all that. So,
yeah, throw at least one women's name on there, and that way you've at least given shine to both sides in this match.
Well, sure. Yeah, I get it. But there you go. That's your Bound for Glory for tonight, 2024. And then don't forget, NXT Halloween Havoc is tomorrow night as well. I'm looking forward to both of those. I think it's going to be a very, very big night for wrestling. So I'm looking forward to it. And
can we address what Punk said about how he can't stand Nick Nemeth either? Do you like anybody, Punk? I mean, you don't believe in Joe Henry. You can't stand Nick Nemeth. Anybody besides us that you like?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Very good question. I don't know. I don't know how you don't believe in Joe Henry. I just don't.
I mean, the man took a similar route to Matt Cardona. He put himself over with the fans, and I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but I'm not criticizing you, Punk. I'm just confused because you don't believe in Joe Henry and you can't stand Nick Nemeth either. So who are you rooting for in that match?
The Ring or the fans, either one.
I mean, the fans are clearly winning when you put Follow That against Believe In.
No kidding. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. It's been a fun show. We hope to get J-Bone back and Baron back next week. We'll have to see if he can if Baron can actually make Kevin Owens happy. We'll have to see. And then we'll have to see if J-Bone kept the Baron safe. So time will tell, but we'll do it again next week. And you can follow the Baron on all over social media at J-Bone. I'm sorry. I can't. Scumbag Jordan with 3 N's. There we go. Damn. 3 N's. Not 1, not 2, but 3 N's. You can follow J-Bone at everywhere on social media at JBone5150, or it's what he would call it, the old Twitter box at JBone5150. See, I'm not good at their stuff. You can also listen to J-Bone on Total Nonstop Impact on YouTube, and he does it every Thursday night. He'll do a reaction show for Impact, and he'll also go live after TNA is done with some news and his thoughts and things like that. So it's a very good show. Max, how can they follow you, sir?
If you're looking for general stuff and wrestling stuff, just follow me at Max Magus. If you're looking for some more nerdy type stuff, follow my other podcast at Our Shots Podcast. And everybody, take a moment today when you have a chance. Go over to Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I refuse to call it X. And pull up Dizzy, who's going to give you his social media here in just a minute, and thank him. Thank him for everything he does to make sure that we are here. Then go to J-Bone's Twitter that Dizzy just gave you and thank him for everything he does to make sure that we can be here.
And then go
Baron and I are just happy knowing that you thanked them.
But you can also go to Baron's page at Scumbag Jordan with 3 N's and wish him speedy recovery and hopefully he makes Kevin Owens happy. We'll have to see. I don't know. Since he's our resident happy guy, he has to. You can follow the show on X at The Ramblers Pod. You can also find us on Facebook at Ramblers Unleashed. And make sure that you hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell icon here on YouTube. It also lets you know when we go live. We're also on Twitch. You can find us at Ramblers Unleashed. And we are currently up to 204 subscribers, Max. We need to get you in that dress soon, man.
I will send the order confirmation over Wednesday night.
Perfection. We hope to have you hopefully next week. Do you think next week?
Depends on how long it takes to get here. I'll let you know Wednesday night.
So within the next week or two, or maybe 3, we can expect to see that guy in a dress because we have over 200 subscribers. I am so happy that we have that many subscribers. Please tell your friends, continue to tell your friends about us. And we hope to keep putting forth some excellent content to you. And we will dive into some of the news next week as it continues to pop up. So in the meantime, please enjoy professional wrestling, no matter what it is. If it's professional, if it's indie, whatever the case may be, go out and enjoy wrestling. And until next Saturday, enjoy Bound for Glory tonight and enjoy NXT tomorrow for Halloween Havoc, and happy Halloween to each and every one of you too. Until next time, see you later. Boom. Until next time, see you later. Boom. I believe our